Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most astonishing naval events in modern history, a high-stakes confrontation where the United States Navy not only outsmarted China's powerful fleet, but turned the entire situation into a masterclass in strategy, technology, and deception. What began as a tense standoff in the contested waters of the South China Sea quickly evolved into a calculated display of naval intelligence, where precision planning and advanced tactics changed the balance of power in mere hours. This event wasn't just about ships and missiles, it was about how the U.S. Navy used innovation, information dominance, and timing to completely disarm one of the most aggressive maneuvers China had attempted in years. It started under the cover of darkness, across the shimmering waters of the Pacific. China's fleet, operating under a classified exercise directive, had moved a series of warships and submarines toward a disputed island chain. The movement appeared routine at first, but U.S. intelligence analysts watching satellite feeds noticed a pattern that hinted at something far more serious. Beijing's forces were testing the boundaries, probing U.S. carrier groups, deploying new radar systems, and simulating blockades that could threaten freedom of navigation. To counter this, the United States Navy devised a plan that would not only expose China's strategy, but also render it ineffective without firing a single uncontrolled shot. Inside the U.S. Navy's Pacific Command headquarters, screens flickered with live satellite images, sonar readings, and radar data. A mosaic of dots represented dozens of vessels moving through one of the world's busiest maritime zones. The atmosphere was intense but focused. Analysts, commanders, and electronic warfare specialists coordinated in perfect rhythm. The plan, known internally as Operation Mirage, was designed around a simple but powerful principle: make the enemy see what you want them to see and react exactly how you want them to react. Every movement of U.S. ships was choreographed to appear defensive, while in reality, it was setting a trap based on predictive algorithms that anticipated China's maneuvers several steps ahead. The operation began with U.S. reconnaissance aircraft flying high above international waters. These planes carried sophisticated sensors that could detect faint electromagnetic signatures emitted by Chinese warships. Using that data, U.S. analysts were able to pinpoint the positions of stealth vessels that were otherwise invisible to traditional radar. Simultaneously, several U.S. Navy destroyers and submarines altered their courses, creating the illusion of retreat. To Chinese satellite surveillance, it looked as though the American vessels were backing off, giving China the confidence to advance. But what China didn't know was that every move was part of a larger decoy network, controlled by the Navy's Advanced Battle Management AI, which was feeding false telemetry into Chinese tracking systems. The interior of the command room was filled with tension as data streams rolled across massive digital maps. Commanders monitored encrypted communications, ensuring every decision was synchronized down to the second. In one corner, a group of cyber operators initiated an electronic warfare sequence designed to interfere with Chinese reconnaissance drones. Within moments, several of Beijing's unmanned aerial vehicles began transmitting distorted data showing phantom ships that didn't exist and concealing the real position of the U.S. strike group. This digital smokescreen would prove decisive. Out on the open sea, the USS Gerald R. Ford, America's newest supercarrier, was silently cutting through the waves. Its flight deck was calm, its aircraft armed but not launched. The crew knew that the true weapon of this mission wasn't brute force, but the manipulation of perception. Chinese radar operators watching from their coastal defense stations suddenly picked up signals that suggested multiple American carriers were converging on the same area, a clear provocation. In reality, these signals were part of a complex decoy system generated by Navy drones releasing radar, effective balloons, and deploying small autonomous craft that mimicked the radar signatures of larger ships. The illusion was so convincing that China's fleet began to reposition defensively, splitting their formation to intercept what they believed was an incoming strike group. As China's ships maneuvered, U.S. submarines lurking hundreds of feet below the surface silently tracked them. Using new generation sonar arrays capable of distinguishing even the faintest propeller vibrations, American submarines mapped the exact formation of the Chinese fleet. This data was relayed in real time to the Navy's tactical AI system, which began calculating predictive engagement zones, areas where the U.S. could strike decisively if the situation escalated. For now, the goal was to keep China reacting rather than acting. Every false signal, every radar echo, every electronic pulse was designed to confuse, delay, and exhaust Beijing's decision-making process. When the moment came, the U.S. Navy executed the next phase of its plan. From hundreds of miles away, American aircraft launched a coordinated electronic strike that targeted China's satellite communications. It was a non-lethal but highly disruptive move. For 6 critical minutes, China's regional command center lost real-time contact with its fleet. In those 6 minutes, the U.S. Navy completed a massive realignment of its strike group, moving from what appeared to be a defensive posture into a perfect offensive formation. By the time Chinese sensors came back online, the situation had completely flipped. Their ships were now surrounded in a wide semicircular pattern that gave the U.S. full tactical control over the area. The performance of the U.S. Navy during this engagement was nothing short of extraordinary. Not a single missile was wasted, not a single jet launched prematurely. Every maneuver was executed with precision and confidence. The integration between manned and unmanned systems was seamless. Drones acted as scouts, submarines served as silent sentinels, and surface ships operated as the visible component of an invisible chess match being played across multiple dimensions: surface, subsurface, air, and cyberspace. U.S. sailors on board these vessels operated with calm efficiency, aware that they were part of something unprecedented. The Chinese fleet, realizing too late that it had been deceived, began retreating toward safer waters, abandoning the aggressive formation it had spent days building. Inside the command center, the tension gave way to quiet satisfaction. The mission had succeeded beyond expectation. Intelligence feeds confirmed that China's fleet had withdrawn by nearly 150 nautical miles, giving the U.S. control over critical maritime routes without a single exchange of fire. Analysts reviewed the operation data and found that Chinese systems had been manipulated at multiple levels: radar, sonar, and satellite, each deception reinforcing the next. It was a demonstration of dominance not through destruction, but through information control. The safety protocols of this operation were carefully observed from start to finish. Every electronic intrusion was measured to avoid permanent damage to civilian or commercial systems. The U.S. Navy ensured that all actions took place in international waters, maintaining legal and diplomatic integrity. The restraint shown by American commanders was as strategic as their aggression. They proved that modern warfare doesn't always require visible firepower to achieve victory. Sometimes the most powerful weapon is the ability to control the flow of information. In the days that followed, the story broke across international media, though much of the operation remained classified. Analysts described it as a turning point in naval warfare, the first major instance where artificial intelligence-driven deception had outperformed human strategy. China's government downplayed the incident, calling it a routine exercise, but satellite imagery told a different story. The abrupt withdrawal of its fleet, the sudden reorganization of its radar network, and the scramble to recalibrate communication satellites all pointed to a major strategic defeat. For the U.S. Navy, it was a confirmation that its new generation of warfare systems integrating cyber capabilities, electronic warfare, and AI could maintain dominance even against a numerically superior adversary. The unique selling point of this operation was not the physical confrontation, but the psychological edge it created. China had long believed that numerical superiority could overwhelm the U.S. in the Pacific, but Operation Mirage shattered that illusion. It proved that the U.S. Navy's understanding of hybrid warfare, blending digital disruption with traditional tactics, was unmatched. This success sent a message not just to Beijing, but to every nation observing from the sidelines. Technological mastery and adaptability now matter more than fleet size or missile count. The ripple effects were immediate. Within weeks, several Asian allies requested deeper defense collaborations with the U.S., including joint training exercises to enhance electronic warfare readiness. Even countries that had remained neutral began reassessing their security strategies. The U.S. Navy's demonstration of precision control without escalation showed a new model for deterrence, one that values intelligence and timing over brute force. This kind of operation is the future of warfare, where perception becomes a battlefield and deception becomes an art form. China, humiliated by the outcome, launched a sweeping review of its naval systems. Cybersecurity divisions were ordered to double their encryption measures, and research institutes accelerated the development of counter-AI technologies. However, experts pointed out that the real challenge for Beijing wasn't technological, it was strategic. The U.S. had proven that it could predict China's behavior, manipulate its response, and neutralize its advantages, all while staying within the boundaries of international law. That psychological defeat would take far longer to recover from than the temporary loss of control over the South China Sea. As the dust settled, U.S. analysts compiled the after-action report. Every signal transmission, radar echo, and drone path was archived for study. The data revealed something extraordinary. The operation's success rate exceeded even the AI projections. This meant the Navy's real-time human decision-making was still outperforming algorithms in key moments, showing that technology alone wasn't the hero. It was the synergy between human judgment and machine precision. Commanders praised their crews for discipline and calm under pressure, reminding everyone that even in an age of autonomous systems, the human element remains the ultimate advantage. The cost efficiency of the operation was also staggering. By relying on digital warfare rather than kinetic strikes, the U.S. Navy achieved a decisive victory at a fraction of the expense of traditional combat. No ammunition was wasted, no ships damaged, and no lives lost. In contrast, China spent millions mobilizing, refueling, and redeploying its fleet in response to phantom threats. It was a strategic masterpiece that drained the opponent's resources while preserving one's own, the hallmark of true military genius. In the months following the operation, classified briefings revealed that the U.S. had used experimental drone networks capable of self-coordination. These drones communicated autonomously, forming adaptive mesh networks that made them resistant to jamming. They acted as both decoys and scouts, extending the Navy's situational awareness across hundreds of miles. This innovation redefined how carrier groups could project power and defend themselves in the modern era. The technology developed during this mission is now considered the foundation for future unmanned naval operations. Beyond the military implications, the event reshaped geopolitical dynamics. Nations that had doubted America's staying power in the Pacific began to realign their expectations. The U.S. had not only protected its interests but also reaffirmed its role as the world's maritime leader. China's narrative of dominance was cracked, replaced by a new understanding that control of the seas depends not just on ships, but on who controls the data flowing through them. In conclusion, the U.S. Navy's operation against China's fleet was not just a tactical maneuver, but a defining moment in naval history. It showcased the fusion of human intelligence, artificial precision, and strategic patience at a level never seen before. By outsmarting China's fleet without direct confrontation, the Navy demonstrated a new era of warfare, one where the battlefield is invisible. The weapons are algorithms, and victory is defined by control over perception. The message was clear. The future belongs to those who can think faster, adapt smarter, and strike without being seen. Thank you for watching till the end. If you found this deep dive into naval strategy and modern warfare fascinating, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Stay tuned for more detailed analyses of the world's most powerful military operations and the unseen stories behind them, because the battles of tomorrow are already being fought today, in silence, in data, and in strategy.